Hi, if you like the video, please remember to subscribe.
Hi, Rob from robinonphoto.com. What I'd like to do today is talk to you about tripods. If you haven't seen one before or played around with one, just want to show how easy they are to use and what a great benefit they are to your photography. So this is my tripod. It's a Hammer model from Asda. I think I got it for about £6. It's really small, really lightweight, fits in my tripod, my backpack really well, and as you can see, it's not very big at all. It's really good. But let me show you sort of how it can expand and become a really good support for the camera. Now obviously first off, you can use it sort of really small like that, great for low level shots, but then you have these expandable legs, and the way you use a tripod is when you're going to expand the legs is the first one you always want to expand is the thick bits. So you would do that, and you lock them off as you're going along, and that gives you your next sort of great stable base, because as you get bigger the legs are getting thinner, and what that means is it's going to be slightly more wobbly, so in high winds you might find it better just to not fully extend the tripod. So in this case now, I mean you probably can't see it all, but the tripod is pretty high, so that gives me almost it's sort of waist level shots when it's like that high. So let me just collapse the legs again so you can see how easy it is to do. So you just flick the levers, and it's fully compact. The other thing you can do as well is it has an extra extension bar inside this bit. So what I can do is if I undo this little wheel, I can just extend that bit. So if I'm using it fairly low, I can play around with that height. Dead easy. Now the next stage really is obviously fixing the camera on. So how do we do that? Well, if we undo this little bit here, you can see this bit flaps up. So you take your camera, I mean this is just a little point and shoot, just to use an example. On the bottom there's a little threaded bit, so that just goes in the bottom. Lock it down. So there we go, the camera is now fixed onto the tripod. At this point as well, what you can do is, you can't really see it here, but there's a little spirit level down there, so you can see whether it's level or not when you're lining it up. But then what you can do is you can then control your tilt and your pan. So if I want it to go up and down, I can just undo this little lever here, and that gives me that movement, and lock it off. Well, if I undo that there, that then loosens the top bit, so I can spin it round. So if I was sort of taking some landscape shots, I would line it up, get it nice and straight, use the guidelines at the back of the camera to make sure my horizon's level, click away, then I would undo that, flick it up into portrait mode, then click away and take pictures like that. They're really, really useful as well. Say you're taking panoramic shots where you're going to use a tripod and you're going to put the camera in the portrait position, you just lock that in, click, move, click, move, click, move, click, move. Dead easy. So there we go, that's a tripod. You can see how really easy it is to use, really quick to set up, really lightweight, really small. This is a really cheap example. With the more expensive models, you don't have to screw the camera into the tripod. There's actually a quick release plate that you screw into the bottom of the camera, and then what you do with that is when you want to put the camera on the tripod, you just put it on the top, turn a wheel or flick a lever, and it locks into place. Where with this one you've got to keep unscrewing it. But what I do is when I've got my camera on it, I tend to carry the camera around sort of like this, and then set up for shots, you know, on the ground obviously, click away and leave the camera fixed on, because it just saves time and makes everything easier. Overall, using a tripod, great for long exposures, great for any situation where you want to make sure you get really sharp shots. And the thing I really like about tripods is they give you the extra time, because it takes you sort of 30 seconds, a minute to set it up. It gives you more opportunity to look around and look at the scene and decide on what your subject is, your composition. You can really use the full zoom capabilities of your camera, because you don't have to worry about it shaking, and it just makes you to slow down and not just click away and move on all the time. It makes you pick your locations a little bit better as well, because you know you always want to be in a situation where you know you're going to get a good shot, because you don't want to waste time. So I would say, if you haven't got one, get a tripod. One final tip I'll give you about when using a tripod is, if you're on a slope, okay, so you're on a hill, maybe shooting down, or the ground is uneven or whatever, if it's going to be leaning this way, for example, what you always want to do is make sure the single leg is at the back. So if I was on a hill with this one, I would then extend, I would have that one at the back to make the tripod straight, sort of like that, if you can imagine so, because then it isn't going to tip over. Whereas if you do it the other way, where say it was on the hill like this, and then I extended these legs to make it straight, so the camera's now straight now, what would happen is it really pivots really easy on those two legs to make it fall down the hill and destroy your camera, so you don't want to do that. And also, I mean, I'm used to it now, but always make sure that all your little sort of wheels and screws, make sure you double check the tightness, because one of the classic ones is, you know, you leave that bit wobbling and your camera wobbles, or if you leave that's the dangerous one, because imagine if that's loose with a heavy camera on, you dunk, the camera's going to fall over and it could damage it. These cheap lightweight tripods are alright for point and shoots and cheaper, smaller and lighter bridge cameras, but if you've got a DSLR with, which has got a lot more weight and a heavier lens, you do want to spend a lot more money on your tripod. This one cost me £6-7 quid. You'd want to spend £50-60 to get something really solid, because if you've got £500 worth of camera, you don't want to put it on a £10 tripod. Okay, well, that's it today for About Tripods. Hope that gives you a bit of food for thought and encourages you to go out and buy one and use one in your pictures too.